Hello there, this is L24 World News and these are your headlines. At the end of the three-day visit of the French President Emmanuel Macron, Algeria and France on Saturday signed a joint declaration for renewed partnership. At least 32 people were killed as militias fight each other in Libya's capital, Tripoli. Pakistan is appealing for further international assistance as floods devastated the country, leaving people searching for higher, drier ground. President of the International Union of Muslim Scholars Ahmed Raisuni decided to submit his resignation from the presidency of the Union. NASA plans to launch the Artemis mission on Monday from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending the Space Launch System rockets on more than month-long journey around the moon. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, signed on Saturday in Algiers with the French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, who was on an official 3-day visit to Algeria since Thursday, the Algiers Declaration for a Renewed Partnership. The signing ceremony took place in an honor launch of the Houari Boumediene International Airport in presence of the delegations from the two countries. The signing of the Algiers Declaration for a Renewed Partnership between the two countries was preceded by the signing of 5 bilateral cooperation agreements in several sectors of endeavor, notably including the fields of health, higher education, and scientific research and sport. And in a statement after the signing ceremony, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, indicated that the Commission of Historians, which will be set up in the coming days between Algeria and France, will have to deal with the question linked to the memory from a historical and not political angle.
Nous sommes mis d'accord pour la mise en place de cette commission.
We agreed on the establishment of a depoliticized commission of historians. I think that it could be installed in the next 15 or 20 days. It will have to deal with the question of memory under the angle of history and not of politics.
Le temps qui leur est imparti.
Regarding the time allocated to the specialists to carry out their work, as we had discussed and agreed on a period of 1 year or less, if the work is finalized before, but if they take even longer, so much the better because good things take time.
Les bonnes choses prennent du temps.
And in the same line of thought, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, said on Saturday that Algeria, as one of the leading powers in Africa, always defends the interests of the continent.
Nous nous sommes entendus sur
With the French president, we have agreed on the future which concerns the two countries. We are going to act together in many areas outside Algeria and France, in the interests of Africa, which we always defend.
la France est assez proche de l'Afrique aussi.
France is also quite close to Africa, so that the rapprochement between Algeria and France, thanks to the visit of President Macron, will allow the two countries to go very far.
La noter, c'est la première fois depuis l'indépendance de l'Algérie.
As the press noted, this is the first time since independence that a meeting was held in the presence of the two presidents of the Republic and the relevant security services of the two countries, including the army, both sides, which bodes well for joint action in the interest of our geopolitical environment.
Dans l'intérêt de notre environnement géopolitique.
Answering a question from L24 News regarding the common economic horizons, the French President Emmanuel Macron revealed that periodic meetings will be held to deal with the suspended fights between the two countries, revealing promising projects as well.
Nous avons, à travers cette déclaration, jeté aussi les bases sur plusieurs questions.
The Declaration of Algiers lays the foundation for new cooperation on several issues, in particular that of memory, on which it was decided for the first time in our history to mandate historians together to work on it without taboos. It was also decided to build this new partnership for youth in several areas: economic, technological, innovation, energy, culture, sport, and many others. The desire is to allow the actors of these sectors to work together.
The President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, ended his 3-day visit to Algeria on Saturday afternoon. He was seen off and greeted on his departure from Houari Boumediene International Airport in Algiers by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the high government officials. And as a reaction to the visit of the French president to Algeria, the French politician Jean-Luc Mélenchon sharply criticized his presidential trip to Algeria. He accuses Macron of having a dominant mentality and of arriving too late on the Algerian gas file.
Les Italiens, eux, ils ont écouté Mélenchon.
Italians listened to Mélenchon and went there. They discussed with Algerians on Algerian gas and bought. And now, where is the gas, please? Is there enough left for us? No, he made us waste time because basically he has dominating mentality. So either he apologizes for having dominated or he restarts dominating. We have to restart from simple idea, equality. Algerians have interests. They have a government and we don't interfere. And as the French, we have interests. And government will interfere because it's where we live. And we discuss Algerians on an equal footing.
Et on discute avec les Algériens à égalité.
In a different matter now, Tokyo International Summit for Africa's Development continues for 8th consecutive second day in Tunisia's Business Forum, where Japanese officials gathered during the intervention in the work of the Business Forum within the framework of the summit on the need to invest in human resources and renovation in order to build a prosperous future to the African continent and develop African-Japanese relations.
Japan will contribute to Africa's growth by working together to overcome the challenges that Africa is facing. And through this, Japan will also learn and develop. Japan will promote initiatives in its own unique approach by focusing on the people. This will lead to a various cycle of growth and distribution that would realize what Africa is aiming for. A resilient Africa. This is my idea.
Tunisia summoned its ambassador to Rabat to consult in response to a similar Moroccan move following the reception by the Tunisian President Kais Saied of his Sahrawi counterpart Ibrahim Ghali, participating in the 8th African-Japanese Summit of Tigad. In a statement, Tunisian Foreign Affairs said it had always maintained its neutrality on the issue of Western Sahara. The Moroccan president of the International Union of Muslim Scholars, Ahmed Raisouni, decided to submit his resignation from the presidency of the Union. Raisouni's resignation comes after provocative statements he made against Algeria and Mauritania, sparking widespread anger and condemnation by civil, political, and religious groups in the two countries. The widespread campaign of condemnation inside Algeria and Mauritania prompted Ali Al-Qaradaghi, Secretary General of the International Union of Muslim Scholars, to reject Raisouni's statements. In the African continent, clashes between militias backed by Libya's rival governments have killed at least 32 people and wounded dozens in the capital, Tripoli. Safia Kanchouri in this report.
32 people have been killed and about 159 injured in clashes between armed groups in Tripoli since dawn on Saturday. This occurs at a time when Abdulhamid Dbeiba, the leader of the Libyan government of national unity, has declared his intention to call elections in the nation. For its part, the United Nations Support Mission in Libya expressed serious concern over the ongoing armed clashes in civilian areas of Tripoli and demanded an end to them. The latest clashes in Tripoli were allegedly started by Bashar-aligned fighters, opening fire on convoy in the capital, while other pro-Bashar units had gathered outside the city, according to Dbeiba's Government of National Unity, which was put in place as part of United Nations-led peace process. following a previous round of violence. Bashar claims that the government of national unity's mandate has run out. He's supported by the Libyan parliament and military strongman Khalifa Haftar, who's based in the east. However, he's not yet been able to assume office in Tripoli because Dubaiba has voted to only agree to give up authority to an elected government.
Floods triggered by destructive monsoon rains across Pakistan have killed more than 1,000 people. The catastrophe led Pakistan's government to appeal for international assistance as floods continue to devastate the country, leaving people searching for higher, drier ground. Mrimzian.
More than half of Pakistan is underwater. Flash floods triggered by destructive monsoon rains across much of Pakistan have killed more than 1,000 people, injured and displaced thousands more since June. 119 people have died in just 24 hours, bringing the toll to 1,033 as heavy rains continue to lash parts of the country. Many parts of Pakistan have become inaccessible, and rescuers are struggling to evacuate thousands of marooned people from flood-affected areas. The government declared a state of emergency on Friday and mobilized the army to deal with this catastrophe, but is also desperately appealing for international support. The US, UK, UAE and others have contributed to a disaster appeal, but more funds are needed according to officials.
I appealed yesterday, and I appeal today, to all affluent people whom God blessed with wealth, the industrialists, the businessmen, and all rich people from Punjab, Sindh, and Balochistan, to come forward and hold the hand of the suffering humanity in this difficult time. Today I'm here in Sujawel, and I'm seeing how people are living in the tents here.
Pakistani officials attribute this devastating weather to climate change, saying Pakistan is being unfairly impacted by irresponsible environmental practices elsewhere in the world. However, citizens also have their share of responsibility for the damage caused. Corruption and poorly established urban planning programs have led to the construction of thousands of buildings in flood-prone areas. Pakistan has consistently ranked among the countries that are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And these inundations come at the worst time for Pakistan, whose economy is collapsing and which is experiencing a deep political crisis.
In the same story of floods, and the Taliban government made an appeal for assistance from international community on Saturday after death toll from flooding in Afghanistan reached 192 this month. Authorities expressed concern about how people will sustain themselves after thousands of livestock had been killed and 1.7 million fruit trees were destroyed.
More than 1 million families need urgent aid from foreign countries, such as clothes, tents, and food.
Following the recent earthquakes and floods in the country, we encounter various diseases, the reason for which is the lack of clean drinking water and other diseases such as pneumonia, which many children are affected by, and the reason is the change in climate and temperature.
World Food Programme has warned that global food insecurity situation has gotten worse over the past 3 years, with the number of people experiencing acute food shortages rising by 150% to 345 million people. The COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the world's two leading producers and exporters of grains, were the main causes of the food shortage, according to this letter. Two United States Navy warships sailed through international waters in Taiwan Strait in the first such operation since tensions between the U.S. and China erupted this month over House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island. The Eastern Theater Command of the Chinese military said it was keeping an eye on the two ships, keeping a high alert, and was prepared to foil any provocation. Police and supporters of Christina Kirchner clashed on Saturday in Buenos Aires. The demonstrators gathered outside of the vice president's home to show their support after 12 years in prison and lifetime disqualification were requested against her over fraud and corruption.
Demonstrators pulled down fences, while police used water cannon to disperse their gathering. 7 police officers injured and 2 people detained. Such scenes occurred after 2 prosecutors called for a 12-year sentence against Argentina's vice president, Cristina Fernandez, over alleged corruption offenses during her government.
If one had suspicions about Cristina, it would be good if there was transparent justice system, so that you would have doubts whatever the outcome. But this is not the case, quite the contrary.
Hundreds of her supporters gathered in Recoleta neighborhood in Buenos Aires to prevent police from reaching her home, while some of them say they do not trust the judicial system and she is the victim of a judicial persecution.
By putting up these fences, the mayor of the city in which I live shows very poor reasoning that generated more opposition, more anger in the people.
Meanwhile, residents in the neighborhood complained about the uproar and noise they experienced due to the protests.
Unbearable. People haven't been able to sleep for a week because of the demonstrations. There are no hygienic conditions. I didn't have to deal with it, but the street is blocked on the other side of the square, and people can get in or out. You have jams until 4 in the morning, with people singing and shopkeepers who can't open their shops.
On the other hand, Cristina Fernandez defended her supporters' right to protest and thanked them for backing her.
Who is speaking has suffered from the permanent harassment of those who come to insult, offend, and threaten with death. I've never seen the Buenos Aires police stepping in to prevent a citizen from being harassed. I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes the same way those who are here present do. I have the same rights.
A judge will decide the conviction and potential sentence, which could take months. Fernandez de Kirchner has the right to appeal any ruling, which may cause the ultimate verdict to be delayed for years.
Pope Francis added 20 additional clergymen to the list of cardinals on Saturday, formally increasing the number of people qualified to vote for his replacement should he pass away or resign. The latter of which he has said he would consider, if necessary, 16 of the clergymen being appointed new cardinals during the consistory service in St. Petersburg's Basilica are under the age of 80, making them eligible to vote in conclave, a secret meeting of cardinals behind closed doors to choose a new pope.
It is the confidence and trust of Holy Father that from the lower section, maybe like, untouchable, they say, he wanted to elevate one as a cardinal so that we will be a voice, not only for the peripheries, marginalized and Dalits, but we have the responsibility to take into consideration all the needs of our Telugu church, especially South India, now with this responsibility also to the universal church.
In light of the Arctic's expanding strategic and commercial significance as its shrinking opens up new sea lanes and vast mineral and oil resources, the United States intends to appoint an ambassador at large for the region. The 13-nation alliance faces a strategic challenge from Russia.
But we also realize that the importance of the High North is increasing for NATO and for Canada, because we see a significant Russian military build-up with new bases, new weapon system, and also using the High North as a test bed for their most advanced weapons, including hypersonic missiles. Russia has set up a new Arctic command. It has opened hundreds of new and former Soviet-era Arctic military sites, including airfields and deep water ports. Russia is also using the region as a testbed for many of its new novel weapon systems.
Poland and Czechia signed a deal on Saturday to safeguard Slovak airspace as Slovakia hands up its outdated MiG-29 planes produced in the Soviet Union. NATO allies have vowed to protect Slovakia until the country obtains new F-16 from the US. According to the agreement, Poland and Czechia will supply the necessary troops to respond rapidly in the case of violations of Slovakia's airspace.
In the immediate proximity of our region where we live came a war. And all of us who are standing here today either have experience with fascism, and we really value the freedom that we gained after 1989.
We have signed this treaty with Czechia and Poland, and this proves how close our relations are and how close we are as allies.
Families and relatives of the Uvalde school shooting victims and Austin locals rallied on Saturday in front of the Texas State House to call for the 21-year-old purchase age for the AR-15s. According to local media, the protesters are demanding that Texas Governor Greg Abbott convene a special session of the legislature to enact the raising of the AR-15 purchase age and the other gun safety laws.
But we all see where this 18-year-old is.
We need change. We need change. This kid was 18 years old. 18 years old. Not even able to beg beer, but able to buy AR-15s. There's something not right there.
And what we hope to do today is hold our lawmakers accountable for the inaction and the extremist gun laws we have in this country. They are just too loose. Over the decades, they have been chipping away at gun safety laws in Texas, and this is the result.
And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup by Melissa Khimilet.
Angola paid tribute this weekend to its former president, José Eduardo dos Santos, who died at the age of 79 in Barcelona on July 8th and ruled the country for almost 40 years. The funeral procession left the Dos Santos family home in Luanda, traveling through the city to the Republic Square, where the former president will be buried with full military honors in a ceremony attended by representatives of 18 countries, including the former colonial power Portugal and the UN. At least 6 people have died and another 7 are in hospital after a truck came off the road and crashed into a community barbecue event in Rotterdam on Saturday. Protests have been held across India against the government's decision to free 11 men who were jailed for life after serving 15 years in prison for the gang rape of a Muslim woman, Bilkis Bano. 14 members of her family were also killed during the religious riots in Gujarat state in 2002. Men and women shouted slogans urging the government to reverse the decision to release the rapists.
And we end up with a new chapter in space exploration. NASA's Artemis mission is about to begin. 5 decades after the final flight of NASA's legendary Saturn V moon rocket, the U.S. Space Agency is poised to launch its most powerful rocket Monday for a critical long overdue test flight, sending an unpiloted Orion crew capsule on a 42-day trip around the moon. And to this end, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a reminder for our main top stories. At the end of the 3-day visit of the French President Emmanuel Macron, Algeria and France on Saturday signed a joint declaration for renewed partnership. At least 32 people were killed as militias fight each other in Libya's capital. Pakistan is appealing for further international assistance as floods devastated the country, leaving people searching for higher, drier ground. President of the International Union of Muslim Scholars, Ahmed al-Raisuni, decided to submit his resignation from the presidency of the Union. NASA plans to launch the Artemis mission on Monday from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending the Space Launch System, rocket and Orion capsule on a more than month-long journey around the moon. That's all for now. Thank you so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our pages. Bye bye.